All right, my loves, a little bit of a different one today. I am giving my voice a voice disclaimer before we dive into this episode. Obviously, on this episode, I am speaking to the incredible, very humble, very brilliant billionaire, Tony Swantek, all about the project that he has a huge part in called Connect United. Now, the project that we speak about specifically and the project that Ryan and I are, full disclosure, very invested in is the project that we talk about on this episode. It is called Rally. Rally is a part of the infrastructure and ecosystem, essentially, of Connect United. Now, it is not network marketing, it is not affiliate per se, but it is a decentralized crypto network. Okay. And the way that that works, obviously, when we purchase nodes, we had to purchase our nodes through, it was my godfather. He sent me a link and said, don't ask questions basically, but get this because, you won't regret it. And we bought. And since then I have aggressively looked into the product and the company, aggressively researched, aggressively become very passionate about it. However, this episode and that does not make this something that you necessarily should or have to invest in. Every investment is a risk. Every investment, including this one. So just because I have interviewed Tony Swantek, just because Ryan and I are invested in this node and this particular project, does not make that a sound and safe financial investment for you. If you wish to seek and speak to a financial advisor or someone, whomever you go to seek financial literacy and advice from, I highly encourage you do so. Again, this is not financial advice. We have to say this for the ACCC and ASIC. If you're listening, friends, not financial advice. It is purely educational. So, and I really, 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 really do mean that. And I say this all the time whenever I talk about proper investments. And obviously, when I had Lloyd on, I didn't have to do this because we spoke about shares, but we obviously weren't speaking about specific shares that he and I are both invested in. This project I mentioned, I think, a couple of times in the episode. I'm obviously talking to Tony, relating and understanding what he's saying, making it quite clear that I am invested. So you're going to hear that and see that. But I wanted to put this disclaimer to voice at the front, not just written in the words of this episode, to say that just because I am invested does not make it financial advice. If you do become interested though, my link, so the link that you can purchase nodes on is in the notes of this episode. It's how I started and bought my nodes. And if you do, there is rewards for us. So I want to make that very clear. If you do become interested, and that's on your own research and independent decision-making, if you buy nodes through our link, because that's how you buy them now, then we will receive tokens from the project. That's how the decentralized aspect of this works, which is why I'm so bullish and passionate about crypto and Web3. So I want to make that very, very clear. And I also want to say I'm obviously in all the groups and, learning more and more about it, but just so you understand what this project is essentially and what Web3 is and the power of it, I'm going to read this text from, I think it was one of the founders, but it basically explains the project better than Tony and I did on the entire episode. So stay with me and then we're going to dive into the episode. John T. All right. What fundamentally drives crypto prices? Is it when people buy and sell or when there's good news and hype? Both of those things are true. But what if tokens were driven by more than just speculation? What if they were fundamentally backed by real world products and services that gave humanity real value? What if every dollar of revenue from those products and services flowed back into the market to support the token economy? What if every token purchased out of the market was shared with the community, the ones who actually own the infrastructure and brands? What if all the shares of each company were tokenized and given over to a distributed network of node operators through a governance framework? So the community doesn't just share in the value, but also in the decision-making and the future. What if crypto wasn't a gamble, but a system where value, ownership, governance, and impact were built into the very foundation? That's exactly what we've built. And we've built it across every major industry out there. That is from one of the billionaire founders on Connect United. As I said, Rally is one of piece of their infrastructure, and that is the one I am very bullish on and have personally invested in. Not financial advice. Do your own research. But that is what has made me so passionate about the project. I fundamentally understand the blockchain. I am very, very passionate about Web3. And I love knowing that I own a piece of the infrastructure where I can be rewarded for usage. Now, Tony explains on this call, when you purchase a node, it's not going into building the product, essentially. It's already built. In fact, if you are interested in time to come, I will be doing a free call as education only, not financial advice, but it's going to come in the next couple of weeks. I will link that in here so if you're listening to this in weeks and months or years, it will be in the show notes. But I'm going to do a free call on the project itself, and I'm going to do it on the technology. So Rally is available to sign up to as of now. I've been using it. I absolutely love it. It is the next Zoom, but better than, cheaper than, and better functionality. So I'm going to do the information educational call on Rally, and I am going to talk you through personally the project, understanding nodes, what it looks like to buy a node in the back end. Again, just purely facts and educational, not financial advice. So that is all to say. This is a long way to say to cover all asses and bases with ASIC and the ACCC. We love you guys. Not financial advice, purely educational only, and I really hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Anything Goes with Anna Rose. Today, I have the very, very special guest, Tony Swantek, who I have been teasing on previous episodes, saying I cannot wait for this conversation. And here we are. Today is the day that I'm live recording with him, utilizing the technology that I am so excited about at the moment, and he is behind. We're going to unpack that a little bit though, because I know it's very decentralized and all of the things. But yeah, this is going to be a really exciting conversation ultimately on blockchain, on the future, on decentralization, and all things that I am extremely passionate about, and so is Tony. So welcome, Tony.
Thanks for having me, Anna. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. It is such a privilege to have you on. Before we dive in, and I want to, what I love, and I was geeking out before we hit record, but we are actually literally utilizing our link right now. The call that we are not on Zoom. We are utilizing the actual technology that I had invested in several months ago. Actually, I'll set the scene for you. Let me tell you how I came into this.
Sure.
But several months ago, I call him my godfather. He's literally like my godfather. He's too young to be like my dad, so I just call him my godfather. But he's a very, very dear friend, him and his beautiful wife, Det. And he called and he said, look, I found this technology through another beautiful mutual friend who you know very well, Jen. And he's like, we've signed up. I really believe in it. You're so smart with blockchain. I know you love it. I've been invested since 2017. And he said, you have to do it. I'm not, you just buy the nodes. Don't ask questions. And so we did. I did several, when he called me, it would have been several months ago. So I bought 2 nodes, understood it. I actually jumped on a call with you. You wouldn't remember. You've probably done 1,000 calls. But I jumped on a call. You were on that call. Warren Lance was on that call. And a couple of other big players obviously having a look at the company. And I fell in love. You were incredibly humble. You were so just authentic, down to earth. And you're also, run billion-dollar companies. And so founders is a huge thing for me when it comes to any investment. But especially with the blockchain. And I coach women in the Web2 space on this all of the time. And so, yeah, meeting you, I was like, yeah, I'm in. So my fiance and I bought 2 nodes back then. And I set and forget it. I activated them and then the NFT to boost them. And then I didn't forget about it, but I just sort of left it. And then literally a couple of months ago, 6-7 weeks ago, I was I couldn't stop thinking about it. I'm like, this R-Link, why do I keep thinking about this R-Link thing? And I rang Jimmy again and I said, look,
I want to learn more about it. It's not leaving me alone. Obviously something's going on because it's coming to me. And he said, jump on a call with Jen. So I jumped on a call with Jen and just asked her more questions. And at the end of that, we bought 2 more nodes. And I was like, with the view to buy more. So we've currently got 4 nodes of R-Link. I'm very passionate about the project. I'm passionate about the entire infrastructure and ecosystem of Connect, Grow and all the other ones as well. But definitely R-Link because I run multiple online businesses. I utilize Zoom every single day. And so to have this company essentially, right, of R-Link be able to be this fierce competitor on the blockchain is just so exciting. So that's how I met you. That's my connection to the whole thing. But for those that don't know you, Tony, which most won't, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? And I know in your bio you have, well, I've read it around the internet. Blockchain pioneer comes up over and over again. And so I'd love to know where that title came from.
Sure. I'm new to the blockchain, I think, in, I guess relative to many people that I actually live most of the year in Dorado, Puerto Rico, which we call it Crypto Rico. There's a lot, like Dubai and Puerto Rico seem to be pretty good hubs for, the initial investors in Ethereum. One of the first developers for Ethereum lives next to me. The owner and founder of Bitfinex Exchange. I play pickleball with him about every other day, so it's a lot of those guys have been in the blockchain a long time. I'm newer to the space really. But I look at how I came into blockchain, and I separated crypto and blockchain. I kind of looked at those as the same for years, it's crypto, it's all blockchain, it's all the same thing. And then 2023, I started to realize, that's kind of like saying the internet and email are the exact same thing. It's like, well, you use the internet to send email, but you can do a heck of a lot more than send an email with the internet. And that just came to me really, 2013 is when I started buying Bitcoin. I had read the white paper in 2010. And I just liked the concept. And it was really 2017 when we started trading cryptocurrency pretty aggressively. A friend of mine had started a trading software using some bot technology, just algorithms, and it went really well. 2017, you could throw a dart at a cryptocurrency and it was on its way up. So it was good timing to get into trading the altcoins, and man, they were flying. And then in 2018, he introduced me to the gentleman that started Gala Games, a gentleman named Wright. I met another guy named Eric, and both of them had kind of been the brains behind starting Gala Games, which obviously people into the crypto world are pretty familiar with. It was the #1 performing cryptocurrency in the world in 2021 during the last bull run. I sat on the sidelines, long story short, and watched them, build at their peak. Maybe it was like a $40 billion market cap on that company. And I was intrigued for sure, but I'm more of a traditional entrepreneur, just building businesses, and had just from 2021 July to 2023, I had built about a $10 billion accounting firm. We had done about $10 billion in tax credit filings in our first 2 years in business, with about $2 billion in profit. I mean, it was a very profitable. It still is. It's our biggest business that my wife and I have ever started. And around that time, October of 23, we had just gotten over like 1,000 employees and contractors working for that company. And my friend that had started Gala, he made a little over $4 billion off that project, reached out to me and asked me to help them with their blockchain projects. And at that point, I was so busy, I didn't have any bandwidth really, probably similar to what you said. I was going to maybe buy some nodes and just let them run, and that was my goal. And it was a meeting in Vegas. They asked me to spend a day with them. And as busy as I was, because I had watched what they had done in the last bull run and built, literally, there were days when their market cap in 2021 was higher than Tesla. And I was just like, it's unbelievable to see people build something that quickly. And I think blockchain is just a different animal. I think we're in an amazing time to be alive right now. And so I said, you know what, I'll come see what you guys are doing. And they wanted me to drive revenue through their blockchains, figure out ways to increase revenue through all their blockchain projects. And, long story longer, I saw the grow blockchain. This was agriculture blockchain project, a health and wellness blockchain project called Galvin, but it was really the banking blockchain project. And it wasn't necessarily the project itself. The CEO of that project, I knew who she was, a lady named Kathy Roberts. And I have a credit card processing company that's pretty large. And so we'll do $4 or $5 billion a year in transactions. And she was one of the original founders of Discover Card. And so she didn't know me, but I knew her. I knew who she was. She was the first president of Discover Bank. She was for a while, she was the head of the Delaware Banking Commission, which is one of the biggest banking states in the United States. And so I was a little shocked to see a banker of her caliber in the United States. Anyone that uses a credit card, maybe you do some in Australia or Europe, but if you get cash back when you make a purchase, it was really Kathy and her team that invented that in the credit card. And so I'm looking at one of the more influential bankers of my lifetime for sure, talking to me and a small group in Las Vegas about blockchain and banking, which at that time, it was a pretty hostile environment. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, was suing companies like Ripple. They were suing Coinbase. I think they were investigating the Ethereum Foundation. Like, that administration was not friendly to blockchain. And banking and blockchain were like oil and water. They just did not mix. They did not like each other. They did not go together. And I'm sitting here watching an extremely successful banker educate me about blockchain. And after the talk she gave, I just said, Ms. Roberts, I said, I got to be honest, I'm surprised to see somebody like you talking about blockchain and cryptocurrency. And I was wondering how they got you into this world. And she said, Tony, I believe within the next 5 to 10 years, blockchain technology will make everyone on planet Earth bankable. And she spent probably 15, 20 minutes educating me on why she felt that way. And I believed her. Like, I started to see how she was connecting the dots. And I felt like, anyone on the planet, you think unbankable. For me, I think, maybe Aboriginal Australia, the outback. I think, Africa, India. But outside of that hotel, we were at the Waldorf Astoria. Outside of that hotel, right there in Las Vegas, there were people that were unbankable. In Sydney, there are people walking around that are unbankable. In Melbourne, in Perth, it doesn't matter where you're at in the world. Every major city, every state, every rural area, there's people that are unbankable. And from a kind of a common sense standpoint, she kind of hit me with common sense, which I think is one of the best ways to educate people, is maybe something I didn't think about, but it's like I should have. She said, listen, think about Bitcoin. She goes, anyone in the world with access to a computer, which this is an easy access to computers, a smartphone, but a laptop or anything, and the internet. So if you've got this and you can get online for free, you can set up a wallet and somebody can start sending you Bitcoin and you can start sending them Bitcoin. And now all of a sudden you're involved in this financial system that the rest of the world is connected to. And if you're not bankable right now, the amount of opportunities you would miss out on across the world by not being able to participate with the rest of the world in the banking financial structure, it's immeasurable. And you've got around 3 billion adults on planet Earth that are unbankable, which is massive. Like, it's a massive amount of people. And so I do believe she's right that blockchain is going to alleviate that problem. Now, where I get, this is a long answer to a short question, where I ended up, people started calling me a pioneer in the blockchain was, and I don't have anything against any project in the ecosystem. I believe that our banking blockchain will decentralize banking. I believe our agricultural blockchain will decentralize the agricultural world, and health and wellness will do the same with healthcare. But I think those are pretty heavy lifts. And there's nothing right or wrong about that. Meaning, if you're going to decentralize banking, you have to deal with the existing rails, the existing infrastructure, the banks. If you want to get money into the blockchain, you've got to figure out how to turn your fiat into crypto. Now, you and I could do it between each other because we're peer-to-peer, we know each other, but that doesn't solve the problem for 3 billion unbankable people that don't know you and don't know me. And so if you get them into blockchain, you have to create what we call an on-ramp. How do you make it easy for grandma and grandpa to come into the blockchain? And I felt like, eventually we'll pull off a lot of these amazing projects, but I was looking, they asked me to help build revenue. And I said, listen, you guys don't have, the community at that time had about 11 or 12 blockchain projects. And I said, you guys don't have really like what I would call a communications blockchain. And I felt like, we could put several different products or services on a communications blockchain, but video conferencing for me was low-hanging fruit. And so I was looking at ways to bring grandma and grandpa, someone like my mom, use Zoom, and there's 300 million users a day using Zoom. And she's talking to her best friend and her best friend's sister, and they pay, whatever, $16 a month for Zoom, so it doesn't shut off on them after 45 minutes or whatever. And I said, hey, what if we could do it for $15 and it was as good or better, and we would reward you with tokens that basically you could use to pay for your platform. I said, think of it like Amex points or airline miles or your Chipotle or Starbucks rewards, whatever. You get a free coffee if you go there enough. And she understood that, because I don't think grandma and grandpa are going to, set up a MetaMask wallet and start bridging tokens to ERC20 or Solana or anything like that anytime soon. The baby boomer generation, the people that are in their late 50s, their 60s, their 70s right now, fortunately or unfortunately, the vast majority of wealth across the planet sits with them. They control the vast majority of wealth, and they are not operating in the blockchain space. They're not holding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so I looked at what this community had built over the past. I looked at where business was heading. I kind of related to what I would call the shift from Web 1 to Web 2, to where if I looked at Web 1, that's when the military was using the internet. Steve Jobs was probably using it. Bill Gates was using it. IBM was using it. 1981, 82, you had Internet Protocol, TCP, IP. Those codes were developed in the early 80s. It was the mid 90s before really Hotmail came out, and all of a sudden somebody like me that couldn't code, didn't know what HTML was or any of that, I could use email, and I didn't have to know how to code to set up an email account. And then you had Google show up, and Amazon, and PayPal with Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, all these entrepreneurs. And I say this lovingly, but the nerds, and again, I say that lovingly with respect to the nerds, got the internet from 81 to the mid 90s, right? They created it, they developed it. But then entrepreneurs, and some of those entrepreneurs were nerds as well. I think I'm a little bit of a nerd myself, but it's like some of those entrepreneurs figured out, how do we make the internet, for lack of a better phrase, invisible? Like, you don't have to explain to my mom what HTML is or an SSL certificate is so she can watch her shows on Amazon or Netflix, or watch ESPN Plus so she can see the Pittsburgh Steelers play, or pay her credit card bills, or check her bank statement, or get on a meeting like this. You don't explain to people what the internet is. You just give them ways to utilize it, make their life easier, more efficient, more entertaining. And that's what the internet did. And so I think the reason a lot of people started referring to me as a blockchain pioneer is my goal really wasn't to educate the masses about blockchain. It was to create products and services that utilized blockchain to give them an advantage over a traditional Web 2 company in a Web 2 environment, but allowed the user base to participate in that technology without even needing to know that they were participating in that technology. And I think that is something that a lot of people are like, man, you're like a pioneer. Like, you're bringing people into this technology without them even realizing it. And I think that's, a natural progression. I think that's where blockchain needs to go if you're going to get full adoption, which I believe you're going to eventually. Is I think entrepreneurs are going to have to come in and make it simple and easy to get on board and to utilize these technologies without having to understand exactly what blockchain and Web3 is really all about.
And the beautiful thing about that, Tony, which I love, and that was not a long, that was the perfect answer, because I wanted to hear this. This is exactly what I'm like. I was so excited to have this conversation because I've been on calls with you before when I was learning more specifics about the project itself, but that's awesome. I've wanted to hear that story about the origin in essence. But I will say you have absolutely, it's ironic and iconic to me to hear what you just said, because I'm like, well, you've achieved it, because the fact I will never forget when Jimmy actually called me and he was talking to me about blockchain, I'm like, who the fuck taught you? Like, I was like, why are you calling me, old man? Like, I was like, how? Like, oh my God, mass adoption is here if you are calling me talking about blockchain. Right. It was beautiful to me because I have been only 2017. So, and it's funny because it was in the bull run when you could throw a dart.
Good. 17.
Well, I know, and I'm grateful for that. But no, and I remember because it was a bull run, and I remember in Australia, everyone, and I didn't even understand that term at the time. I'm 37 now, so I don't know however old I was. I think I was about 27. I don't know. No.
Years ago, 25? Give or take, something like that.
30. But I remember everyone in Australia was like calling it a scam. The mass majority was calling, crypto and blockchain a scam. And every time that the world does that, I always lean in. And so I was curious. I was like, well, what is it? I don't understand. I didn't understand it. And I'll always seek to understand, right, before anything else. So I started to look into it and I fell in love with, and I'm definitely the same. I almost had immediately separated. I look at crypto like it operates on the blockchain, but blockchain is like the daddy. Like, it is just the boss. Yeah. It's the boss. Like, they're the children. They're like the naughty children, the altcoins. But I fell in love with that. I fell in love with the technology, and this is where I'm going with the question, because my value set is very around like sovereignty and freedom. And the less the government can control my life, or the banking institutions, or anything external to sovereignty, the better. Sure. And I loved the idea of decentralization. I fell in love with the fact that there was no government or corporation that owned this thing. Ultimately, anyone, not anyone, but, people, anyone, I mean, you have to have the know-how and the funds to back yourself, but ultimately can come in and create this ecosystem of decentralization where the government doesn't own it. They can't shut us down. And that's what I fell in love with. So what was it for you? What was that piece for you? I mean, was it just the debanking thing? Was it like, that makes sense, there's a genuine business opportunity here, or?
For me, it solved some philosophical issues that I would always run into in the business world. And, when Kathy met with me for 20, 30 minutes, it was enough to plant the seed for me to I spent the next 2.5 months almost just digging in. Anything I could find out about blockchain, Web3, like how was this going to shape things around the world? I ran into that article from the World Economic Forum that talked about blockchain technology would disrupt up to $867 trillion in traditional markets. And I was just like, wow, like that's not a once in a lifetime thing. That's a once thing. That's the biggest shift of wealth that literally we'll probably ever see. I would say the next time a shift will be that big or bigger will be interplanetary. Like if some of the Earth's economy starts moving to Mars, if Elon Musk pulls it off, you will see that. You'll actually see a bigger shift in wealth going to Mars. But I don't know if I'll be around for that. I don't know if my kids, grandkids, great grandkids, double grades, triple grades, like, we're talking generations and generations down the road. And so Certainly the entrepreneur in me, as I learned more, said, okay, if I had a time machine that took me back to the mid 90s, and you and I are friends, and let's say it was 1994 right now, I would say, listen, if you're in Australia, I'm sitting in Kansas, doesn't matter where we're at, we need to get to Silicon Valley out in California and start meeting and greeting, because Elon Musk is out there looking for money for PayPal, him and Peter Thiel. Jeff Bezos is out there trying to find some money for Amazon. Larry Page and Sergey Brin are walking around Stanford's campus coming up with Google, and they're going to be looking for money. And I'm going to be like, Anna, we got to get every dollar we got, everybody we know, get all the money we can, and we got to give it to these guys because their internet companies are getting ready to skyrocket. And so it's like that hindsight's always 2020. But as I'm looking at what's happening with Web3, here's a couple things that and this is my opinion, but that I truly believe. And then I'll get into kind of philosophically how it solves some problems for me. Number one, as I learned more, I felt like it was going to be very difficult for a Web 2 environment to compete in a Web 3 world. Meaning I think humans as a society have conceded to the fact that Mark Zuckerberg has been listening to me this whole time. And Jeff Bezos and Sergey Brin and Larry Page at Google have been listening. And I don't necessarily mind getting targeted advertising. Like, I'd rather see ads for watches and pickleball paddles than dresses and high heels for me. But if I could choose to make some money, if I could make the money off of those people that want to advertise instead of Jeff Bezos or instead of Mark Zuckerberg, I would choose, let me make some of that money. I can either let my data go, which it already is, or I can let my data go and get paid for it. And I would choose to get paid for it. And I think the 5.5 billion people that are online would make that same choice. Zoom, it was actually March to August of 2023. They were sharing everyone's data with their AI. And it was August when they got caught doing that, and people got mad and they stopped. They said they stopped. I don't know if you can order your AI to forget. AI is pretty smart, so our data is probably there, and maybe it's already gone. Maybe the AI sold it to China. I don't know. But I do know if you were upset about that and you wanted to leave, you could go to Google Meet, you could go to Microsoft Teams. Those guys are better at mining data than Zoom is. And so it was like there's no real safe place to run to, in my opinion. Well, that's where I felt like blockchain creates that solution where the users actually can own the platform and the users can get rewarded for their data that's on that platform, for sharing the platform with others, or even just using the platform. And so from a philosophical standpoint, where I ran into issues in a lot of my companies, we pay our sales force in perpetuity. So like my accounting firm, we've paid out hundreds of millions of dollars a year in commissions to sales reps. And I have it's a kind of a very unfortunate story, but I had a younger sales rep in his 30s that passed away. But our contract was not with him. It's with an entity. And now his daughter has a trust, and all of the commissions go to that trust. And as we bring in other clients, so he brought in a group of clients, as we bring those clients into other services that we offer, the commissions still roll into that trust. And eventually the goal would be, if his daughter eventually has a family, has kids, it will go into that trust, and it'll go to their grandkid, and it'll go to the great grandkid. The problem for me with that philosophy is if somebody like Ernst & Young or Deloitte, like a big accounting firm, bought us out, maybe after I'm gone, maybe after I'm retired, just maybe something happened. Maybe God says it's my time and one of my jets doesn't make it to where I'm supposed to go. What happens to that contract? Like, I could easily see Ernst & Young going, we're not paying her anymore. Nope, we don't do that. I could see maybe, whoever took over the company, if something happened to me, like maybe they'd be like, why are we paying an 11-year-old girl $38,000 on this client every year? Like, what are we thinking? Like, cut that off. And again, that's where I couldn't stop that. I wouldn't be around. However, if you had a community that controlled our company, and you had to have a full community vote to change compensation. Well, most people aren't going to vote to take money out of their own pocket and give it back to the company if they don't have to. So I felt like blockchain really could create what you talked about, that sovereignty, where you can allow people that have skin in the game. Everyone that has voting rights in a blockchain project, they maybe are a node owner and they're mining. Maybe they're a proof of action reward recipient, meaning they're doing things that generate revenue. Maybe they're a customer, they're using a product or a service and they get voting rights because they're a user. Every one of them has what I would call skin in the game. They have a vested interest in making sure that company is successful, making sure that it's profitable, making sure that the sales reps are incentivized and they're out there getting more and more revenue. And again, it's not perfect. I don't know if it ever will be perfect, but I do believe it's a much better way to run a company if you can go to the user base and say, listen, you can use this service, let's say Zoom, or you can use this service, let's say R-Link, and the main difference is they work about the same. We maybe have a few more bells and whistles. I can show people somebody said, what about our pricing? Like I just pulled up a web page popper.
Yes.
If I had 1,000 people on this meeting with us, each person can control their own screen. They can scroll at their own pace. They can click on buttons. They can do whatever they want. I can show video real time. So if somebody said, well, we do presentations, but we have video that we like to share, I can go right into a video, which is great. Like normally, I couldn't show a video that simple. With Zoom, I would have to share my screen, change my audio setting from microphone to computer, wait 5 seconds for a YouTube ad to finish, skip it, and then I would watch the video. Here, I can fast forward, I can rewind. If I'm done with the video, I can just close the video.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's a better way to present. If somebody says, well, I want to buy this, like I want to sign up, I can pull up a call to action and people can buy right now. Like they can do that, and so.
Oh, that's changes. I'm like, hang on.
Yeah,
that changes the game for coaches. Think about coaches who are selling off.
Fully customizable. We'll have a full white label solution. My accounting firm, it won't be rally.r-link.com. It'll say rally.jornstax.com/Tony. And instead of the little R-Link logo at the top left, it'll have the Jorns Tax logo, our Jorns and Associates accounting firm logo at the top left. And my call to action button, the first one that we'll develop will be to sign people up for the research and development tax credit here in the United States. And we'll just tell businesses, hey, if you want to sign up, click the button that just popped up. And we split tested. You're going to close at about a 70 to 80% higher ratio of conversion when you can convert inside your platform versus going, hey, Anna, I'm going to type a link in the chat, click on it, scroll halfway down, click that button, and then scroll to the bottom and click sign up. Like, no, we're going, listen, just click the button on your screen. Boom, you're in. And so it's a better mousetrap for me. God. And I felt like if we can be as good or better than Zoom, and we can give people a choice, everyone would choose to use the platform they own. If you own Walmart, you don't shop at Target. If you own McDonald's, you don't go to Burger King for lunch. And so here we can create loyalty in an industry that really has none. Whatever link you used to send me, I would click on. Now, if someone wants to do a presentation with me, I'm like, hey, let's use my meeting platform. And I never get pushback. Like nobody cares. They're like, sure, we'll use your meeting platform. And then when I explain to them that I'm earning rewards for using my platform, a lot of people are like, well, how do I do that? Like, how do I earn rewards? And so I think blockchain creates some advantages that traditional businesses are going to have a real hard time competing with. Giving the users ownership is one big one. But the other thing is like our CEO, our chief marketing officer, like our lead developer, like a lot of these people accept tokens as their pay. And then they can hold those tokens or they can convert those tokens. So, I always tell people like, if you and I own, a company, like you own a video conferencing company, I own a video conferencing company, and I have to pay my people in Australian dollars or US dollars or euro, depending on what country they're working out of. And you can give your people magic internet money.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'm going to have a hard time competing if you have people that are just as good as me, but they're working and the community is generating these tokens, and they've generated enough tokens to pay these developers, these C-level executives, and the users and reward them for using it and sharing it with others. I just think from a common sense level, it's creating a huge advantage. And I felt like as an entrepreneur, not only did I need to position myself to take advantage of that, but I felt like anyone I really loved and cared about, and this is just my belief, again, it's my opinion, I felt like if they're a business owner and they have a Web 2 company and they don't position themselves to transition into a Web 3 company, I felt like within 5 to 10 years, they'd be gone. They'd be out of business.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was my duty to just go out and educate people about Web3, about blockchain, about how it could possibly impact the world and mainly the business world and traditional markets, but it can certainly impact governance. It can impact a lot of things. But from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I felt like I would be doing people a disservice if I didn't share this knowledge with them. Now, what they do with that knowledge is completely up to them. I'm fine with them making their own decisions and digging in and doing their own research. And maybe they decide to just stay on Web 2. That's fine. At least they can't come back to me 3 years from now, 5 years from now and go, Tony, you're a blockchain pioneer on your stuff. Why didn't you tell me about blockchain before it got to this where I'm struggling? I can't compete, So now they can't come and say that. I'm telling the world. And if 5 years from now you did it, you want to thank me and it works out, that's great. If you missed out, at least you can say, hey, thanks for telling me. I should have done something about it.
Which is what like my fiance. So I had started investing in 2017 into Ethereum, Bitcoin and a few alts, which I don't do anymore. It's just Bitcoin and Ethereum. But Ryan's, he's like, I live with no regret, but my only regret is a guy came to me in 2015 or something and started to talk to me about Bitcoin. I'm like, yeah, coulda, woulda, shoulda. I want to unpack that a little bit just so everything you just said is exactly why I have you on the podcast today. Because when I learned about the project, I really believed in it. I'm bullish on blockchain. I'm bullish on decentralization. I'm bullish on the business model of decentralization. So I had started an NFT back in 2022. So pretty much the end of the bull as we entered the bear. And that was strategic in itself because I know ETH remains ETH. So it was 0.22 ETH to begin with the project, which was about 555 Australian at the time. But I did it because the NFT is attached to Ethereum at the time. So I did Ethereum. And because I wanted to have a community, I wanted to reward my community. And so then I started a Web 2, I call it, company, an activewear brand, where 50% of profits, and I'm working on that right now. That's sort of one of the 4 companies I run, but go back to the community. And I can do that utilizing the blockchain because I fell in love with this idea of rewarding a community for participating in the economy of my businesses. So I love it, right? Yeah. What made me excited about R-Link, and I've got a win note as well. I forgot about that. So I love, again, all the projects, but it really was R-Link for me. So I'm like, I get this. I get everything you're saying because it was such an easy switch. First of all, I was like, well, of course I'm going to use, if I've got the option to use Zoom, which good on them and they've done really well and I'm grateful for them to get us through the pandemic and all the things. But I'm like, oh, fantastic. There's now a decentralized blockchain option with a video conferencing call. And I want to just quickly explain to people, because this is why I'm doing this podcast, because I believe in it so much. I genuinely believe where the project is going. We've bought 4 nodes, like I said, with the view to buy more, which I am rewarded on. So I just wanted to unpack a little bit of the infrastructure. We've got like 15 minutes before we're at the hour, which is wild. I want to unpack the infrastructure of how this works so people can understand, because there is also what I loved about it. I'll say what I loved, and then you can sort of explain the whole ideology or unpack it a little bit more. I can sign up as a customer. So if I just wanted to play within the realm of the ecosystem, just be a customer of Rlink, I can just sign up on the front end. I get a better functionality than Zoom, and it's cheaper. So there's just that. I believed in it so much though, I was like, holy hell, I can actually buy a node to be rewarded on a bigger level. So when all the customers are signing up, I'm earning tokens, which is like a crypto. I explain it like that in the back end, because that was incredible for me. I'm like, oh my God, this is so smart. Like, this is just blockchain 101. So there's that, right? So there's the front end aspect as a customer. People can just sign up and utilize the space or the Zoom rooms, the Rlink rooms. Yeah, that's right. Then, or sort of at the other end of that spectrum, you can buy the node, which is ultimately like the pioneering essentially of the project as becoming a deeper, bigger part of the infrastructure, but you are rewarded. So every day, I actually don't know, I don't check religiously, but I know we're earning more than a couple of thousand tokens a day at this point, which is a coin in essence. It's a rally coin, which has real market value.
Yes.
Which
people
is
can sell them, yes.
Yeah, if you sell them, correct, which is like any cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
So did you want to sort of just explain that a little bit more from your voice and knowledge?
Absolutely, yeah. For me, I felt like, one of the things that a lot of projects in blockchain do is they build on what I call idea phase, meaning like, hey, we're going to do an ICO. We've got this amazing idea, buy our token, we'll use the money, and then we're going to build this, and it's going to go well. And unfortunately, the vast majority of those never get out of idea phase. They never go. And I'd say probably more unfortunately, a lot of those, maybe 90+%, never even planned on getting out of idea phase. They just wanted to do a pump and dump and get, a bunch of money from people and then run away. And I felt like, the days of the meme coins, I think there'll be meme coins forever, but I think they'll be similar to like penny stocks or junk bonds. Like it'll be like this fringe that, people still have fun with here and there, but the blue chippers are coming. Yeah. And so I don't focus necessarily on like, people will go, what do you think the coin's going to be? This, that, or the other. It's like, my goal is not to create a project that has a coin that's worth $1 or $2 or whatever. My goal is to create another $1 billion business that every dollar in revenue goes in to buy the token. And so the way we set the process up, it's called Smart Flow. The community voted on this and it passed. Yes. And so as revenue comes in, as we come out of beta, Smart Flow will turn on. And I'm praying we come out of beta in the next few weeks. We're going into like I'd say this is kind of our alpha version. We go into beta probably Wednesday or Thursday. We've got about 1,000 users on the platform. Like we've held it down to 1,000. We've got another 5,000 that we're going to add on over the next several months, maybe several weeks. We'll see how fast. It's up to how well the tech performs to how quick we can run it out. But if it keeps going well, then eventually we'll come out of beta and open this thing up. And every dollar that comes in, it just goes right into the market, like into Uniswap, to buy the token. And so it creates buy-side pressure, which has never really been done at scale in the crypto and blockchain space. See, we do it opposite. We're not in idea phase. We're going out to the world going, listen, we already have the platform. Like you're on it, on your podcast, like right now. We don't need any money. We have millions of dollars in our war chest. We overfunded it. In just this project, I bought $25 million worth of nodes. So almost half of the total node purchases I put in were into this project. That's the max that our community will allow people to.
You got clapped out.
Or whatever. or I would have probably purchased more in this project. But I'm fine. At 25 million is pretty good. I did get some huge tax advantages in the United States for that. I got to take what's called bonus depreciation. So it was good. It's like a business expense or whatnot. So it was strategic as well. But what I looked at is if we can create revenue, it's almost like if Jeff Bezos said, when you check out on Amazon, if everyone that checks out, we take your money and we buy Amazon stock, and then you give us that Amazon stock, and then we give you your belt or your bottled water or whatever you bought from Amazon, we'll ship it to you. Now, if I'm a buyer and I just need to know, hey, it's $200 on my credit card, and they're going to buy some stock, they're going to take the stock, and then they're going to send me my product, I don't really care. As long as I get my product, it doesn't matter. And so you've got what I'd call a price agnostic buyer in the blockchain space, meaning every time I've ever bought Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana or Stellar or Monero or Doge, I bought, our software would trade like the top 500 coins on CoinMarketCap. So I've probably bought everything. Well, my robots did, off and on micro trading. And I always wanted to know the price, or my bot needed to know the price. We were trying to buy the dip and sell the pump and then buy the dip again, and everyone always cares about the price. But if my mom's card runs for $15 to buy this platform, that $15 converts into basically Rally token. We take those $15, put it into Uniswap, and we want to buy $15 worth of Rally tokens and don't care what the price is. If we try and buy it at half a penny and no one's willing to sell, then the algorithm will say, okay, how about a penny? And if it doesn't sell, nobody will sell. How about 2 pennies? How about 3? How about 4? How about 5 cents? Bang, it sells. Great. If it gets 10,000 tokens, the community then receives those 10,000 tokens from my mom. And we say, hey, mom, thanks for the 10,000 tokens. Here's your meeting platform. If next month it automatically charges her card for $15 and it's, let's say, $1 a token, she gets 15 tokens. The community receives those 15 tokens and says, hey, mom, thanks for the 15 tokens. Here's your platform. Here's your product. And so from an infrastructure standpoint, my focus is building revenue. If we have enough users and enough customers on this project, and then we end up going into, something like Pixa, which, if this is our Zoom killer, Pixa, this would be like our TikTok killer, where you can go through and look at different, it's kind of a social selling app. If she's selling bottles of water, it's in beta now, but you can click the shop button and you can.
You got to get me on this, Tony.
What's that?
You got to get me on this one.
Yeah, we're in beta on that one. But I'll send you a link. You can download Pixa. I don't want a bunch of people downloading it. It'll mess up. We're in probably pre-alpha on Pixa. But, I think that's an easy pitch, right? Like instead of your data going to China, which is where TikTok's shipping it, what if you owned your data and could monetize that data? And then when you're buying things, you're getting rewarded for doing it. And so infrastructure-wise, my goal is to build another multi-billion-dollar company where all the multi-billions go in to buy a token and create that buy-side pressure. It just creates the demand for the token. If, people always ask, what can we do? What is your community looking for from an infrastructure standpoint, from a build standpoint, from an entrepreneurial standpoint? There's really 3 things. The first 2 is pretty much for anybody and everybody. The third one, I think, is more for kind of the entrepreneurs. And the first one is basically buying a node, help us run our blockchain. That's one easy way to participate, which you mentioned. Eventually, all of our meetings will be hosted across our node network. Right now, the community owns 6 servers around the world. So it's a decentralized community that owns these servers, but they're centralized servers, meaning, it might be Cisco's server, it might be Amazon's, it's somebody's, but we have 4 in the United States, 1 in Southeast Asia, and 2 in Europe right now. So we're probably pinging off a US server and a Southeast Asia server if you're in down under in Australia. So that's why we don't have any lag. at the edges of blockchain networks, technologically, you get lag now if you try to host over our node network because you have to host it randomly. And so we would end up, if we were in a Southeast Asia or an American server, we'd probably be okay, but it would have to randomly eventually hit a European server, and you and I might pick up a lag and it'd be visible. But I think within a year, the technology, we're working on it. I think we'll figure it out in about a year, but there's other open source blockchains that are probably going to figure out maybe quicker than we do, and they're open source, so we'll use their code if they figure it out. We're already working on some games that are being hosted over our node network as kind of a trial. And if the gamers can play over our node network, we know it wouldn't take us much longer to get live streaming video hosted over the node network. So the more nodes we have, the more computer firepower we have, the easier it is for us to grow. So if someone says, hey, how do we help? Like, how's the infrastructure set up? Like, be a node owner, help us with the computer power, like help us get bigger and have stronger servers. The other thing we look for is, and probably the more important thing at this time, is the community build. Who can help us spread the word? Stop using Zoom, start using Starlink, and eventually stop using TikTok. Well, you can still use TikTok, but also use Pixa. Stop using Telegram or WhatsApp. I don't even have a name. We have a messenger app we've already developed, so that'll be coming out. That's blockchain based. And so we want people to help us build that community. And then the third thing, and I think one of my favorite things about the infrastructure in a blockchain project, there's no ego here. There's no owner. I have no ownership. Like, we don't care where the amazing ideas come from. We only care that the amazing ideas come. And so that third type of person, probably somebody like you that's got that strong blockchain background, that as you learn more and plug in more, you're going to start to see challenges that we have. We share them with our community council. We share them a lot of times with the community, and you're going to go, I can solve that. Or I know someone that can solve that problem. And then eventually you may see things and go, I know a roadblock that's coming up that they might not see, their messenger app. And it's because I worked on a project with this guy out of New Zealand or whatever. And then you can come to the community and go, hey, have you guys thought about this as you start to scale up? And we might look at our devs and everybody's like, no, but we better think about that. And so I think the more I call it the hive mindset, the more amazing entrepreneurial minds that we bring together, the better the chances are that we pull this off. And really what we're trying to do has never been done. We are decentralizing a real business, like a real company with real payroll, with real marketing expense, with real servers that are spread throughout the world. And we've gotten as close as anybody ever. And I think we're almost there, but we need more people like you involved, more people like your fiance involved, more people like Jeff involved. The guy, there's people around the country that we need involved, because we don't have all the answers, and we know that. And I think that's what's so great about blockchain is you get this camaraderie, you get this collaboration that in a Web 2 environment just doesn't exist. And that's probably the thing that's excited me the most about what we're working on, is the amazing people that have come together to help.
Yeah, which is and this is a beautiful end to it ultimately, because I can tie that so beautifully in a bow. Because realistically, from the very first call that I got on with you, you said that on the first call. You've said that I got on another call. And then, because I've just been so curious along the way, and I had invested. And now I've had the absolute privilege and honor to have this one-on-one with you, essentially. And now millions as well. This goes out to everyone, which is so exciting. But it's the humility which is innately linked to blockchain to me, because you are not a corporation. You are not a governance that can come in and change something that debank us. Like, you can't. It's just such a sovereign, humble technology, in my opinion, that can reward the average, I say Australian, but the average everyday human around the world that can be connected and be rewarded. So on those 3 points then, which I just love, I will wrap it up to say that I'm so committed. Obviously, the big reason why I wanted to get you on as well was that I believe in this project so much and the wider project, Connect United in general, that I called my mum and I was like, and I've never called my mum about any project because my mum is just my world. Like I just, I work so hard to make sure she's always looked after no matter what. And I said, we're getting you a node. Like dead set. I said, you're actually going to get a node because I believe in it so much that I do believe where it will go. Everything is a risk. It could, everything is a risk. But I always laugh and say to women, like, so is dating a dickhead. Like, right? Like I would rather put a risk in blockchain personally than men. But everything is a risk. So with those three things, I just didn't want anyone to get left behind, especially in my community. And I was like, I'm ready. I'm invested. I believe that we're going to do well. And so my thing was like, okay, well, I trust it so much because I would never put something in front of a community that I wasn't backing wholeheartedly myself, but B, that I ever thought might hurt them in any way financially or, and again, everything's a risk, but the belief that I have in this project is so high and I'm putting my money where my mouth is because I've got you on and this is a very public podcast, which I love. So my commitment is, I absolutely want to help build out that community now and bring as many people across to the platform as possible. And nodes. And nodes. Like I love, we've got 4, we plan on buying more, but I'm absolutely going to put a link to buy nodes. I've got a link because I'm a node owner and that's how if people go, how do you buy? I believe so. Like I bought my node through Jimmy essentially. So I can put my link and then people can
do the community. That's it. Like literally, you have a link and it's on the blockchain. And so, the nodes drop through the node network, and if someone wants to buy a node, they sign up. It's free to sign up and be a community member. Once they sign up, there's a shopping cart. And they can do, I think bank wires probably, the way most of our baby boomers do it, but a lot of the younger folks use crypto,
I did. I was a
a lot of people with crypto, they'll just use their crypto to buy nodes, but a lot of our baby boomers don't have crypto, so they'll do a bank wire or something like that. So
beautiful. Well, I am so grateful, Tony. I'm so excited. Obviously, I would love to have you back on as the project obviously as well keeps advancing and new things are happening and or new projects are launching or anything like that because I really do have this salt of the earth unicorn community who trust me, and I never ever take that for granted, and I never take advantage of that. And so, I only put the best in front of them. I believe in this project with my whole heart, and I'm so excited. So, thank you for your time, thank you for your brain, thank you for your humility, and one day we will be on your jet. That's my goal.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I always appreciate people like you coming into the community and everything you have to offer. And, I think that's the beauty of it. You own and control just as much as I do. Like we make the same decisions. We all I think, we can all bet on ourselves. And I love having people like you and your fiance and that team in Australia. I'll definitely make a trip down there. My wife, my mother-in-law is living in Vietnam.
Cool.
We sent her back there. She's got family. She wanted to stay there for a couple of years. And so I do visit once in a while. I figured next time I go to Vietnam, I'll swing down to Australia and get a chance to maybe we'll do the next podcast on site.
At the Dream House. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, I will let you go, Tony, but thank you so much. And to the listener, as I said, if you are listening and anything sparked your interest and you are interested in taking a closer look, then I will put all of the links in the show notes. It is something that obviously, as I said, I back and believe in so much. So we will get Tony back on. I have no doubt. And until next time, stay wild.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Anything Goes. And if today's episode gave you maybe a new perspective, a little bit of a laugh, you learned something new, or just loved our trip to Taboo Town if we went there, it would honestly mean the world to me if you could leave me some love with writing a review and sharing this episode to your socials. You have no idea how much that helps my little podcast get out in the world. If you love what you gain from these conversations weekly with me as well and want more than just listening in, come and join my inner circle. It's my monthly mastermind where for just $47 a month, the real magic happens. You get me up close, no filter, live coaching. And if you get what you get from this free podcast, imagine what you get in a paid container. Links are in the show notes, friends. And until next time, stay wild.